You may recall that a while back I did a story about the dam history of Central Oregon. No, I mean the dam history. You know, Newport, Wickiup, Klein Falls, those kind of dams. And today I'm outside of Tumalo to tell you about the dam fiasco at Bull Flat.
This was a huge fiasco that happened back in 1913 and 1914 when an irrigation project came along trying to supply water to the citizens of what's now Tumalo, originally Laidlaw, and it failed.
Now, Tumalo was originally called Laidlaw because of William Laidlaw, who came here in 1902 with big claims of irrigated farmland that would give people a new beginning.
Laidlaw was just a scoundrel, and he was a looter of the public domains. So he came in, got this government land that was available for private irrigation districts to sell government land, or be given government land and then sell it once they had an irrigation district in.
By 1906, Laidlaw had massively underdelivered, and then suddenly he and his associates skipped town with the equivalent of $13 million in today's currency. The town of Laidlaw changed their name to Tumalo, and they tried to hang him in effigy, but even a place to hang him was underdelivered.
Well, they had telephone poles, but no wires, and so they had to hang him from a telephone pole that had no wires on it.
The people went to court to try to reclaim the money they had lost, but the state threw out the case. But they did realize they had a big problem on their hands.
1913, the state brought in engineers, and they decided that to make this irrigation system work, they would have to have a reservoir to keep water throughout the year. 430 people that were hired and 230 horses were used on it, and one piece of mechanized equipment, which was a steam-fired or a wood-fired steam shovel.
They started work at Bull Flat, which is a natural reservoir, and it seemed like the perfect solution.
They built this gatehouse. There's a 8x8 concrete tunnel that runs under the dam, and they would be able to control the water flow.
While they did a decent job of the above-ground infrastructure, below ground, not so much.
They didn't do a very good job on determining what the underlying strata was. The head engineer at the time said, it's just a solid rock basin, there'll be no problem, this is going to hold water.
In fact, they thought it'd hold a lot of water.
Just to give you an idea of how deep this would have been, the swan that's over here would be floating on the top of the reservoir had it worked. This is how it would have been 7 feet below the top of this dam here. And so that swan is right there at the beach right now.
In December 1914, they closed the sluice gates and the reservoir started to fill.
And some kids were walking home from school, and they heard this big rushing sound, and they went over and looked, and there was this gigantic whirlpool that was just sucking all the water down from the reservoir in there. People have said that you could put a boxcar in there and it would have gone around and then down.
They threw hay and dirt down into the sinkholes thinking it would stop the whirlpool. But when that didn't work,
so then they started getting little rafts of like 50 pounds of dynamite, and they would float those out there and they'd sink down, and then they'd torch them off.
In the end, more than 30 square miles were sold, but only 5.5 square miles were ever irrigated.
And whatever became of Laidlaw, the man who started the whole dam fiasco?
Well, Laidlaw, he did fine. He moved down to San Diego, bought a fancy motel called the Palace, and retired there. Died 30 years later at the age of 84, respected by all, I assume, at least down there.
From the dam fiasco at Bull Flat, from the former town of Laidlaw, I'm Scott Elnes.